Postcolonialism is the academic discipline that focuses on the intellectual discourse and analysis of cultural legacies of colonialism and imperialism, that being the historical context and cultural consequences of controlling a country and exploiting the natives as well as the native land.
Okay.
From this academic discipline, we find several theories and theorists emerge revealing a new post-colonial culture, identity, and socio-political standing than that of the former.
Okay.
It is through the investigation of post-colonialism that we see the development of colonized characters' use of epistemology to initiate a creative resistance against those intending to conquer their lands.
Okay.
The post-colonial period dives into the realm of self-identity, knowledge, truth, and cultural authenticity, often walking a very thin line between the reality of the oppressed and the oppressor, a dual reality.
For my topic, I will be discussing apartheid as it relates to the concept of dual reality in the post-colonial era. The idea of a post-colonial world is one where there is no longer a system of oppression. However, the system of colonialism never disappears. It simply evolves to suit the needs of those who use it as a means of power for the oppression of another group of people, a country, a religion, and so on. Each member of a different group experiences their own truths as it relates to that system, literally creating a duel between realities.
Each member of a differing group experiences their own truths as it relates to the system, literally creating dual realities. This is exactly what we see in the state of apartheid in South Africa. From 1948 to 94, apartheid was a legal system of racial segregation in South Africa that led to total cultural, economic, education, medical, and political disenfranchisement of blacks. Africans who were indigenous to the area and land lost all of their rights. Reality for most is what is real to them, what they experience, see, feel, and know. The study of philosophy explores and challenges each of those, especially the concept of what is real. For a white South African during apartheid, their reality was entirely different. They could use whatever venues they liked, could and did vote, walked about freely most of the time, and had very few worries as it pertained to their life. That was their reality. So how could such vastly different perspectives both be reality? This is because reality is subjective, not objective. We see this in Plato's theory of forms and Sextus Empiricus' writing of the 10 tropes. Empiricus said knowledge is possible only if we have good grounds for believing that what it is exactly what we think it is or perceive it to be. We only know what we perceive, and what we perceive is predicated upon who we are and what we experience. With the help of activists such as Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and Cornel West, the realities of blacks in both the U.S. and afar have been advocated and recognized, ending apartheid and working towards equal justice in this country and others abroad. The reality is post-colonialism is supposed to be a world outside of oppression. However, as we have shown, it too is subjective and can be easily altered to suit the argument and purpose of those needing its use. The reality of post-colonialism is that it is still very much a world of oppression, but by different means and standards. It too has more than one reality, a dual reality.
I'm going to discuss Gandhi's perspectivism and his idea of satyagraha and his theological point of view versus utilitarianism and how that's an example of dual reality. I'm going to pose the question, was Gandhi trying to construct a reality that he wanted others to believe in?
Gandhi and Satyagraha. Mohandas Gandhi's perspective helped form his ideas. Although he is featured on all denominations of the rupee, his spinning wheel is on the Indian flag, and he is often credited for bringing about India's independence from the British in 1947. There have always been many people who disagree with Gandhi's philosophy, from modernists to the untouchables. As with everywhere in the world, in India, there are many views of reality. Gandhi's ideas came from his understanding, or his view of reality. While in South Africa, Gandhi witnessed and experienced racial discrimination against the Indian minority. This is when he developed Satyagraha, a nonviolent philosophy that makes the assumption that everyone has a good conscience. In order to change a person's mind, they must be approached humbly and peacefully, and their good conscience will make them want to agree with you. But is this a realistic view of reality? Yes, the British imperialists seemed to fall for it. But perhaps India gained its freedom not through marches and hunger strikes, but simply because the British were broke from World War II and had drained India of its resources. They had no more use for India and were ready to let it go. Could the idea of satyagraha be used against Hitler? In Gandhi's reality, it could. A premise of satyagraha is that people act in good faith and can be confronted through their benign nature. Even Hitler, because satyagraha assumes that everyone has a conscience and everyone is sane. During World War II, Gandhi thought that the German Jews should collectively commit suicide, which would have, quote, aroused the world and the people of Germany to Hitler's violence, end quote. Gandhi maintained his view of reality by saying that the Jews were killed anyway, so they might as well have killed themselves in order to bring some significance to their deaths. A differing view of reality might be that the Jews' deaths were already significant enough, and that the ones that survived would be dead if they had killed themselves. Unlike Gandhi's reality, formed by his experiences with the British, satyagraha only works in situations where it is possible to assemble, your intentions can be made known to your adversary, and your adversary is sane and has a good conscience.
With the coming of modern times, great empires had been built. Ideas and philosophies had been grown, critiqued, and built upon. But one idea, as seen through the visions of Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf, the spreading of the ideas of Soviet communism and American capitalism, the spreading of ideas and impressing of them has come to be called Neo-Colonialism. While one gazes into the eyes of this woman who is holding her children, many questions may come across the mind. Who is she? Who are her children? And quite possibly, what purpose does she serve? Its artist William Burroughs had written in his journal close to the time of his painting of the piece. Can nothing restrain the masses? Alas, no. Faith does not exist or is rare, and strength is waning. What can anyone depend on? Oh, how dark is the horizon. Paris, France, can it be that your life is finished? I am fearful corruption is widespread. The philosophers and socialists have warped minds of the masses. Decadence is imminent. Signs like this have always preceded the fall of a nation. His work, The Motherland, begs the notion that all nations are dependent on one central idea, and this idea should hold them together. This is part of the dependency theory of neo-colonialism, dominantly speaking of economics. The less powerful rely on the powerful. The most known showing of neo-colonialism was shown in the global conflict of the Second World War and beyond. The Axis powers of Germany, Japan, and the Soviet Union had all begun to spread their ideals to their military, economic systems, and oppression. Growing up in a so-called privileged capitalist nation, we tend only to hear of the faults of someone else. But today, does America not hold a very neo-colonialist ideology to itself? Throughout the Red Scare, we had been told to fear communism, yet we continue to force capitalism on those who do not want it. As the Prime Minister of Africa's country of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, had said, freedom is not something that one people can bestow upon another as a gift. They claim it as their own, and no one can keep it from them.
In the early 1930s, 3 young African males converged on Paris, France, all of whom were students from French colonies. Aimé Césaire, Léon Gontran Damas, and Leopold Sédar Senghor all rejected the common notion that as colonial subjects, they belonged to people considered uncivilized, and as such, were naturally in need of education and guidance from Europe, namely France. The concept of negritude was born from this rejection and is a testament to the dual reality of post-colonial Africans from European colonies. Today I will discuss the invent and subsequent development of the term negritude as it pertains to the dual reality of post-colonialism. César, Damas, and Senghor had each felt the sting of colonialism and racism long before they met. César left his home in Martinique, where he had grown tired of the colored bourgeois' tendency to embrace European epistemology.
César rejected high school teachings which claimed to build Christianity and civility in his barbaric pagan soul. Similarly, Demas faced and rejected parallel attitudes. The rejection of the barbaric African dogma brings to mind Plato's myth of the cave. César, Demas, and César are akin to the prisoner who escaped the shadows of the cave and discovered the dual reality of life outside the cave. César coined the term negritude, which is itself a provocation in that the root word negre was often used as a derogatory slur toward African peoples. The term negre, with its negative connotation, was transformed into negritude, a movement with the aim of achieving black consciousness and pride. Negritude became a uniting and uplifting term for all people of African descent, again emphasizing the dual reality concept.